Hello and welcome back, and today we're returning to the subject of Terramaster, and today I want to talk about one of their less spoken about entries into their 2025-2026 series of devices. This is the F4-425, this is the F2-425, crucially not the Plus series. This is kind of their current entry point into an x86 Intel based platform NAS. They've clipped the wings in some places away from the Plus series, and ultimately is trying to be a more affordable alternative to some of their more premium-y solutions in their portfolio. But is it for everyone? In this video, I'm going to give you 5 reasons why you might want to consider these cheeky little 2 and 4 bay NASs for you and your data. I'm also going to give you 5 reasons why you might want to sit on the fence a bit longer, look at one of their other more powerful solutions, or look at another brand entirely. Let's crack on with number 1. This almost goes without saying when we're talking about Terramaster solutions as a whole, but I do think it is worth talking about with these. As a turnkey NAS solution, they're actually pretty bloody affordable. The 2-bay solution rocks out at $269 and the 4-bay solution rocks out at $399. And I should add, that's without any promos, and this is a brand that rocks out promos all the live long day, 10-20% pretty regularly. Now, to put that into perspective, most 4-bay and 2-bay turnkey NAS solutions that arrive with a quad-core Intel-based processor and 4 gig of SODIN upgradable memory and 2.5 gig connectivity, you are looking at a good 20 to 30% more expensive than that in any other brand out there. Now, there are exceptions to that rule. When we look at solutions that don't include an operating system, or perhaps not allowing you to upgrade the memory and little bits and bobs like that, you generally will find compromises to be made, but you can get it cheaper. But ultimately, in the turnkey NAS market right now, for that nice featured standard of x86 architecture in a turnkey, ready out the box solution state, you can't really fault that pricing. T-RAID, Terramaster's own flexible RAID system, I will argue this point probably extends more to this side of the table than it does to that, but it's not completely irrelevant. For those that aren't aware, when you do pop drives inside these solutions, RAID realistically allowing you to take advantage of multiple drives while still having a driver failure, and also enjoying the benefits of multiple drives being read and written to simultaneously, is kind of ubiquitous. It is common across all NAS solutions. However, flexible RAID storage systems that allow you to use different size drives is actually a lot rarer than you think. It's predominantly associated with Synology, with SHR. Also, that old NAS brand Drobo had it. And right now on the ZFS platform TrueNAS and OpenZFS in general, they're trying to integrate something called AnyRAID, which is effectively the same thing. Now, Terramaster, a few years ago, rolled out their version, T-RAID, and ultimately that means that although in a 2-bay you're not going to feel the benefits, so for example, you stick in a couple of 10 TBs, you've got 10 TB of storage and 10 TB of failover, and you can withstand one drive failure. When you go into the bigger solutions, or down the road, if you migrate data into a larger system, you might want to take advantage of larger drives, as the cost of drives might get cheaper over time. That's true, isn't it? Not. But still, nonetheless, you might later on down the line want to get bigger drives, and existing RAID protocols like RAID 5 and RAID 6 will not allow you to enjoy larger drives and still take advantage of that extra capacity. T-RAID is a flexible RAID storage system that creates clusters RAID across each of them. So if you had those 2 10s in here and we put in 2 20 TBs, on the 20 TBs it would create 2 separate RAID clusters within that RAID that allow you to take advantage of the extra storage. Ultimately, you won't have to muck around with that. You just click T-RAID and you get to enjoy the extra capacity. It's a great feature, and it's something that Terramaster doesn't get anywhere near enough praise for. This next point is one that I have talked about in other videos, but I just don't think it gets enough credit. When Terramaster redesigned their portfolio, I gotta admit, they did a good job with the ventilation in all of the right places, and with the perforated logo there on the side for additional ventilation, and with the cooling fans on these systems, if we turn that around, really covering the bulk of the main internal components there. It is a sleek, rounded edge design, and I think aesthetically is very appealing. Also, These systems are pretty efficient when it comes to power utilization, pretty low temp when they're in operation, and ultimately, although this extends to a lot of the 2024, 2025 and 2026 series devices, I will say these two are just great examples of that nice, understated, sleek, modern design. Another thing I genuinely think Terramaster doesn't get anywhere near the respect it should for is their software. We live in a world right now where most people, when they come to buying a NAS, are looking at either going DIY and installing third-party operating systems like TrueNAS and Unraid, more on that in a moment, or they want to get a solution that includes the software. And although big players like Synology with DSM and QNAP with QTS are sucking a lot of oxygen out of the room, it has to be said that Terramaster's TOS operating system is pretty banger. It's not quite as smooth as and consistent in TOS 6 as Synology and QNAP's platform there, but TOS 6 and currently the TOS 7 beta that you can experiment with are pretty bloody good. They are fully featured. You have got multi-tiered security protocol. You've got that isolation mode that I talked about before that allows you in one click to completely sever third-party PHP, third-party coding and external access at a touch of a button. A multi-site backup tool, TerraSync and a bunch of other centralized backup management tools there. A VPN management tool there. We have got inside multimedia tools, support of Jellyfin, Plex and Envy, one of the few brands that gives you the option to install all three via an official and unofficial app center, fast RAID rebuilding, snapshots, iSCSI support, surveillance applications, cloud synchronization, and support of BTRFS as well, and a single mobile application that can control most of it. The point I'm making is, whether it is TOS 6 now or TOS 7 round the corner, Terramaster's operating system, although not flawless, and it does still need optimization in places, I will say, doesn't get anywhere near the respect it deserves. But even if you're not bowled over by the TOS operating system and you use it for a bit and you go, do you know what, this isn't for me, you're not locked in. If you want to use TrueNAS, Unraid, HexOS, ZimmerOS, Rockstore, any of the options in the market right now, you can install them very easily. With one, not invalidating your hardware warranty. Terramaster make it very, very clear you can still install that software and it won't impact your hardware warranty, unlike some brands that if you do that, won't honour it. But secondly, there are few brands that make it that easy the way Terramaster does, and particularly on these solutions. When you open them up, there's a USB key inside that is actually the Terramaster bootloader. But you can just remove that and install your own USB in there, and then boom, you're good. You can go ahead and install third-party OS. It's got KVM and an HDMI output there on the rear, so it's even easier. So regardless of whether you're looking at this solution as the turnkey option that it is being promoted as, or as a ready-built NAS solution that allows you to stick in your third-party OS, you're good to go. But it ain't all rosy. These two solutions are not for everyone. So alongside those 5 good reasons to consider the F4 and the F2 here, let's talk about 5 reasons you might want to give them a miss. It pains me to say this, in 2026, right now, there was a time I would have been happy enough with this, but unfortunately 2026 is too much of a throttle. These only have a single 2.5 gig connection on the rear. Both of them have only got one LAN port. It's not 5 gig, it's not 10 gig. They're not giving me multiple network connections. A single 2.5 gig on both of these, even the 2-bay, is a throttle. Most modern hard drives, a single hard drive inside this will give me, in terms of performance, somewhere around 180 for a domestic class drive, up to about 250, 260 for an enterprise class or 7200 RPM drive there. That means even one drive is going to largely saturate that network connection. The minute I've got 2 drives, perhaps I'm utilizing a RAID 1 or a RAID 0, either of which will give me a greater performance of read and or write, depending on which one I choose, or a RAID 5, which will give me exponentially more than that. These will serve as a huge bottleneck for me there. I'll be able to fully saturate them very, very easily and never get to realize the full performance there. Again, you can add USB adapters for more network connections, but that's an additional spend, and there's no PCI upgrade slots on these either. Bottom line, just keep that in mind in terms of your network bottleneck, especially if you're thinking about SSDs. Remember just now when I mentioned SSDs, realistically in 2026, an Intel-powered turnkey NAS solution with no M.2 NVMe base? That is just an enormous cardinal sin to me. Most Intel systems, big and small, turnkey, DIY, OS-free, whatever, arrive not only with hard drive bays, but also slots for these high-performance M.2 NVMe's that will provide you hundreds, if not thousands, of megabytes per second performance for caching or as storage pools. Now, Terramaster's got a bunch of different solutions in their portfolio that have M.2 bays. Indeed, some of them have got like 3 and more. Like, they are great solutions. The fact that these don't have that really puts a cap on the internal performance inside these, and also just generally what people expect for their money in a turnkey NAS solution in 2026 with an Intel processor inside. Talking of expectations that people have for an Intel-powered turnkey NAS solution in 2025-2026 series, that CPU is showing its age. It arrives with the N5095 processor, a quad-core Intel Celeron processor with 4 threads and integrated graphics on board. Now, that CPU has been knocking around now since 2022, 2023. They utilised it in the last couple of generations of their solutions. Indeed, a lot of brands have started phasing away from that processor towards the Intel N series in the N100, N150, N305, N355, the Alder Lake Twin Lake series, which even now, Intel themselves have abandoned the Celeron naming convention. Now, I get why Terramaster have done this. They've taken the hardware architecture of the previous kind of prosumer generation and then brought it down for the next gen into the access entry point generation, and then introduced the N series processors I've mentioned into their higher tiers. However, it's still an underwhelming processor in 2026 and isn't taking advantage of some of the benefits in terms of efficiency, in terms of TDP, and just general ability versus input-output of the more modern generation CPUs. So you might be getting a system that, although it's a lot more affordable, do keep in mind, much like that network connection, lower glass ceiling. If you've watched any of my other Terramaster reviews, you'll know this criticism is coming. Terramaster, on a lot of their Intel systems, feature an HDMI output. I alluded to it earlier on, by the way, when I was talking about installing third-party operating systems and how convenient it is. Well, regardless of that, Terramaster have had HDMI on their systems now for donkey's years. I think we must be on a decade at this point, and you still can't do anything with them. They're used for debugging. They're used when you turn the device on to get some Billy basic SSH-style command, but that's it. They've never rolled out an HDMI interface, a parallel HDMI interface. Now, brands like Asustor, brands like QNAP have had HDMI output on their NASs for a while. Even some of the new OS-free and semi-OS-free solutions from brands like Minisforum have rolled out their own NAS operating system with an HDMI output. Brands like Ugreen have rolled out solutions with HDMI that you can use with their multimedia application to control from your mobile phone with a remote control. But they've still never done anything with these HDMIs. But they'll still talk about them in the specs being, 4K, 60 Hertz, great 60 frames per second and HDMI outputs, and never do anything with them. And it's a real bummer, to see that hardware, and particularly the software utilization, never really capitalizing on this. And finally, some of you must have noticed this when you were shopping around for a Terramaster NAS, be it from their official site or resellers like B&H and Amazon. There are other solutions in their portfolio that if you just spend a few hundred more, or even for the exact same price, you have got features and abilities that are just absent here. You look at the F4 and F2 series, and indeed the F6 series, you have things like the Max series, the Plus series, and the Pro series. These have all got things like 10 GBE, M.2 NVMe's, multiple network interfaces, more powerful Intel Core processors, some of those Alder Lake and Twin Lake processors I mentioned earlier on. Then you've got other solutions in the portfolio, like the F series with the F4 and the F8 of SSD solutions that arrive with dedicated M.2 NVMe slots throughout instead of slower SATA, and 5 gig networking and 10 gig networking. All of these solutions for just a few $100s more, or exactly the same price as the F2-425 and the F4-425, mean that these and that lower glass ceiling I mentioned earlier on are not going to be suitable for everyone. And spending a little bit more now on other solutions in their portfolio will pay dividends in terms of your scalability, upgradability, and just general bandwidth management years down the road. But there you go, this has been my should you buy and before you buy on the Terramaster 2 and 4 bay in their new standard class 425 series. Let me know what you guys think. Have you purchased these? What have your experience on these? How do these compare to other Terramasters or non-Terramaster NASs you've used? Let me know in the comments below. Now, if you've enjoyed this video, and if any of the products I've talked about today are of interest to you, and lastly, if those other two things are true, that the stores linked below are ones that you were going to go to anyway, like Amazon, B&H and Terramaster's own store, please use those links in order to purchase any of the devices I've talked about today. It costs you nothing extra to do so, and any purchase you make through those links results in a commission coming here to NAS Compares, and it allows me and Eddie to keep doing what we do. But do not click those unless those three things are true. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.